Once again practicing here about the WH type question world. Let's get start, Ankit.
Why does he left the room? Why does he not left the room? Why does he write a letter? Why does he not write a letter? Why does he write in the blackboard? Why does he not write in the blackboard? Why does he read a chapter? Why does he not read a chapter? Why does he sleep there? Why does he not sleep there? Why does he play football? Why does he not play football? Why does he pluck the flower? Why does he not pluck the flower? Why does he play with me? Why does he not play with me? Why does he bring the water? Why does he not bring the water? Why does he fly in the sky? Why does he not fly in the sky? Why does he swim in the river? Why does he not swim in the river? Why does he go to Delhi with our family? Why does he not go to Delhi with our family? Why does he write a poem? Why does he not write a poem? Why does he walk daily? Why does he not walk daily? Why does he spread the bedsheet? Why does he not spread the bedsheet? Why does he use our mobile phone? Why does he not use our mobile phone? Why does he wear his optical? Why does he not wear his optical? Why does he read a chapter? Why does he not read a chapter? Why does he make a video? Why does he not make a video? Why does he speak English? Why does he not speak English? Why does he go to market? Why does he not go to market? Why does he catch the ball? Why does he not catch the ball? Why does he climb the mountain? Why does he not climb the mountain? Why does he count the word? Why does he not count the word? Why does he speak loudly? Why does he not speak loudly? Why does he laugh in the class? Why does he not laugh in the class? Why does he sit properly? Why does he not sit properly? Why does he stand there? Why does he not stand there? Why does he drive a car? Why does he not drive a car? Why does he ride with our friend? Why does he not ride with our friend? Why does he walk daily? Why does he not walk daily? Why does he not get early in morning? Why does he not get up early in the morning? Why does he write a application? Why does he not write application? Why does he go to school daily? Why does he not go to school daily? Why does he play with our friend? Why does he not play with our friend? Why does he walk in the road? Why does he not walk in the? Why does he eat food? Why does he not eat food? Why does he cut the vegetable? Why does he not catch the vegetable? Why does he climb the mountain? Why does he not climb the mountain? Why does he sleep in the bed? Why does he not sleep in the bed? Why does he not come to school daily? Why does he not come school daily? Why does he come school daily? Why does he teach everyone? Why does he not teach everyone? Why does he switch on the fan? Why does he not switch off the fan? Why does he close the door? Why does he not close the door? Why does he pluck the flower? Why does he not pluck the flower? Why does he bring a notebook? Why does he not bring a notebook? Why does he bring a notebook? Why does he light a lamp? Why does he not light a lamp? Why does he pray to God? Why does he not pray to God? Why does he swim in the river? Why does he not swim in the river? Why does he take bath daily? Why does he not take bath daily? Why does he use our laptop? Why does he not use our laptop? Why does he not like to? Why does he not like to? Why does he get a coin? Why does he not get a coin? Why does he dig a ground? Why does he not dig a ground? Why does he jump the wall? Why does he not jump the wall? Oh, why does he fly? Why does he not fly? Why does he drive a helicopter? Why does he not drive a helicopter? Why does he play with car? Why does he not play with car? Why why does he not read a English word? Why does he read English word? Why does he come tuition daily? Why does he not come tuition daily? Why does he walk in evening? Why does he not walk in the evening? Why does he build apartment? Why does he not build apartment? Why does he help poor people? Why does he not help poor people? Why does he go to walk? Why does he not go to walk? Why does he serve the food? Why does he serve food? Why does he not serve the food? Why does he make food? Why does he not make food? Why does he use a pen? Why does he not use a pen? Why does he misbehave to him? Why does he not misbehave to him? Why does he fly a kite? Why does he not fly a kite? Why does he speak loudly? Why does he not speak loudly? Why does he sit in the class properly? Why does he not sit in the class properly? Why does he write in a blackboard? Why does he not write in the blackboard? Uh, why does he bear his angle? Why does he not bear his angle? Thank you.
Very good. Complete sentence.